If you are watching this channel for the first time, please we advise you click on the share button, click on the red subscribe button, and on the notification button, so that when we have a new episode coming out, directly it will be shared to you. You will have the link and be notified of this edition, because they keep on coming and it will interest you. It will move you to another level.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, viewers and listeners, to the Daily Positive Living Principle channel with Dr. Daniel Otto. In last episode, we started on the strategies to implement the love languages. And we said to implement love languages, we need strategies. That in order to avoid tragedy in marriage, we need to implement and institute or establish strategies that will make us implement these love languages well if we need our relationship and marriages to work well. And we said we are going to talk about 8 strategies. And we started with 2 strategies in the last episode. And those strategies were training and study. And we said that you need to study especially specific love languages that your spouse is used to. You need to know which one that applies to out of those love languages that we talked about before. And we also talked about exchange language transfusion, which is very key. And I'd like you to reflect or go back to those 2 strategies so that you can be in line with this third one that we're going to talk about. So in this episode, we'll be talking about complexes that are negative and could disrupt our marriage life, disrupt our relationship in general. And so these complexes are very, very important. And I tell you, as you listen very carefully, it will help you, because for relationship, our relationship in the world, our marriage relationship is very, very key. The understanding of these complexes will help you a long way in maintaining relationship with others and in marriages. What are complexes in general? Complexes are unconscious influences that results out of the experiences in life. What are complexes? Complexes are group of ideas or system of ideas that have, or impulses that have an emotional tone, but could exert a strong and unconscious influence on our attitudes and on our behaviors. What are complexes? Complexes are certain memories or certain desires, certain perceptions, certain experiences, certain emotions that could affect our outcome unknowingly to us. It could exert a strong influence on our behavior. It can make us to think abnormally from the way we should think normally. As a matter of fact, complexes is a psychological context which is coined by a famous Swiss psychiatrist called Carl Jung. According to Carl Jung, he said, human beings have some certain emotions, they have some certain desires, have some certain impulses, memories or experiences or perceptions in life that could either be repressed or could be forgotten or sublime in their minds. So all manner of things that have experiences that one have gone through before could become a complex, which is not forgotten or through somebody's mind. It could now become a complex. And this complex is, if we allow it to survive, if we allow it to live in our minds, it can become an issue and it could disrupt our relationship, it could disrupt our marriage life. And this is what we are going to be talking about. But in this episode, we're talking about 8 complexes. We're dealing with 8 complexes. And these complexes are very, very key. I will try and see if in this episode we can talk about 4 of those complexes so we can understand them in full. One of those complexes, which is very, very key, brothers and sisters, is what we call the Odypus Complex or the Electra Complex, or you can call it the Parental Complex. As a matter of fact, the Oedipus Complex is coined from a Greek mythology, from a man called Oedipus, who killed his father so that he could marry his mother. That is the origin of this. And this is actually a complex where the male have an erogenous feeling for the mother, and it will become a rivalry or an opposition to the father. And Oedipus in such a way that he did it and killed the father to marry the mother. This is what we call the male Oedipus complex, or the male electoral complex, or parental complex. This is very, very dangerous. As a matter of fact, you can also have a female Oedipus complex where the daughter will also have erogenous feeling, erotic feelings for the father, and become a rival to the mother, up to the point that he can send away the mother. This actually starts from around age 3 in the phallic stage of development, and this is very negative, and it could lead to serious consequences in the home. And with this, things cannot move on well. In fact, I have an experience of one of these when I was a medical officer in the general hospital over 28 years ago. I was in a hospital, in a consulting room in the general hospital, when they brought in a mother who was actually hallucinating. In fact, highly aggressive. It was behaving abnormal, irrational, and with high energy discharge. In fact, she came with a lot of chains on her hand. So in my position, what could have happened? Guess what happened? This mother, in their family, the husband, who is the father of her daughter, was almost sleeping with her daughter. It started like a small issue when normally in the house, the daughter would sleep with the husband, and they took it as a normal experience, a normal occurrence. Nobody knew that anything fishy will come out. Up to the point that the daughter somehow became pregnant, and all manner of symptoms, motion sickness and all that, and it was confirmed that she was pregnant. The daughter was pregnant. They now began to find out who was responsible for the pregnancy, up to the point that she delivered, and they now found out it was the father that was responsible for the pregnancy of her daughter. It did not stop there. When it was revealed, the father decided to take the daughter as the wife and drove out the mother. So the woman could no longer bear it. Her brain could not contain that kind of experience. And what happened? He became psychotic. She began to behave abnormal. She began to hallucinate. Extreme mood changes, attention deficit, high energy, hyperactivity. He lost almost all her senses and all that, and she began to behave abnormal. This is what we're talking about. If this thing is allowed to stay in a marriage, I'm telling you, it could disrupt a whole family. When the mother and the father are having affairs with children, this is an extreme, what we call incest activity, that should be stopped. If these complexes are allowed to stay in a marriage, the marriage cannot work well. And this is what we need to deal with. That is Oedipus complex. Number 2 complex is what we call the persecution complex. Persecution complex is very, is very common in our modern world, especially when everybody have an ambition, is working hard to make ends meet, wants to be rich and all that. As we begin to increase and then prosper in so many things, having money, materials and all that, you come to a point that you think that people want to harm you, either because of your property or things that you have, or because of your beauty or things that you have. You now begin to suspect people. It will go to a point, becomes exaggerated up to a point that everybody you see becomes a suspect. You are suspecting everybody would like to harm you. It can even develop into a paranoid complex, paranoid psychosis, whereby when two people are even discussing, you think that they are talking about you or they want to harm you. So it disrupts relationship. It doesn't make things to work well. If you bring that into a marriage, especially a relationship, it means that the husband will be highly suspicious of the wife, and vice versa. So nothing could happen well. If the wife brings food for the husband, he might even be thinking that the wife wants to harm him. And these are the things that, if it is not properly dealt with, it will be very negative to our relationship. And so you can even imagine a condition where the husband will even lock his door and take his key, because he thinks that if he leaves the key for the wife, try to harm him. And these are things that we need to deal with, because these are wicked complexes that can disrupt our marriages, and we should nail it to the bud. Number 3 complex is the inferiority complex. This is another wicked complex in which the person feels unworthy. He feels less capable. Anything he does, he feels he's not worthy. He feels a level of inadequacy, incapable to do things. Even though he thinks he's achieving things, but he feels that those things are not enough. He feels very inferior. You know, it gets to a point that he will begin to avoid every social interaction because why? He feels that he's not up to the people he's going to mingle with. So that kind of inferiority complex will make him to be timid. It make him to avoid every social relationship and all that. Any gathering of people, when people gather together, he will want to avoid that kind of situation because of what? He feels so insecure. He feels inadequate. He feels incapable. And so if this is allowed to stay in a marriage, it's very, very wicked. This inferiority complex is a wicked complex, and it becomes worse in a marriage where there is huge disparity between the man and the woman. Of course, it is normal for a man to have more as the source than the woman. But when the opposite is the case, when the woman, maybe in terms of academic qualification or financial prosperity or any other thing that the woman have is more than the man, wahala, there will be trouble. Of course, the name husband is supposed to be a source, an origin, your provision. So that is normal. But when the woman becomes the source or origin of resources in the house, it becomes another thing. Let me give you an example. There was an example of a case which I actually handled where the wife is educated, a graduate, and is having money and all that, but the husband is a primary school leaver. And you know, a complex will begin to set in. It comes to a point that the husband feels insecure. Even what the woman bought for the house, he bought fridges, he bought television to hang in the house just for the family. The man would think that the wife will want to outdo him, and then is a wicked complex. The man will come home, remove those television when there is a slight misunderstanding. What will the woman? The man will carry the whole television and break it on the ground and finish the whole of television. He will even go and carry the fridge that the woman bought. Anything the woman does, he feels very insecure and reacts negatively. It's a negative reaction. And this inferiority complex, if he enters into your life, even your relationship with others in the office, others in the world will be disrupted. So it needs to be dealt with. There was even the one where there was a case of a marriage. A graduate wanted to marry a primary school leaver as a man. And when the thing get to us, I told them that to me, this marriage cannot work because there's going to be a huge inferiority complex. Up to the point that I even went to call the ladies that, look, I think now this marriage may not work. Don't think about the love that you have for this man now, because that love may fade when inferiority complex sets in. But this lady refused to listen to me. The husband went ahead, who called himself a prophet, was indoctrinating and brainwashing this lady, praying together with her to make her know that is the will of God. But brothers and sisters, when the marriage was conducted, after 1 week, at the time they wanted to consummate the marriage, that was when trouble started. What happened? They began to fight up to the point that the husband carried cutlass and wanted to kill this lady. In fact, 2 weeks, marriage was disrupted. The lady now is divorced. Divorce is written upon her head in total. What are we talking about? These are wicked complexes. If we allow it to stay in a relationship, that relationship will not work. What other complexes are we talking about? Number 4 complex is the superiority complex. It's like the opposite of the inferiority complex, where in this case the man feels highly esteemed. He thinks he knows more than everybody. He has the superior sense that everything he does is higher than every other person. So he considers others very low. So he doesn't take people's opinion anymore. His opinion is superior to other people's opinion. And so the man at the point might even go to error because there is no way he takes any suggestion from anybody. No, he doesn't involve himself in discussion. The man is a lone ranger because he believes he has everything to himself. This kind of complex is a wicked complex. If it is developed The man will be thinking he's on top. Even when he's making mistakes, things will not be going on well. And this, if allowed in the marriage, the man will be dominating. He will not even listen to any suggestion from the woman. The house is a balanced house. The marriage house is a balanced house where the husband and the wife are supposed to sit down and discuss, and things supposed to flow based on their discussion. Husband and wife are supposed to come together to plan. But when this superiority complex is done, you will see that the man cannot sit down. He feels that the wife is so inferior and then he is superior. And so they will never sit down to plan, never sit down to discuss. And if they don't stay together, that marriage is in a serious trouble. As I begin to round up on this episode with these 4 complexes, and we're going to continue the 4 in the next episode, let me give you this story of a exact story that happened when we were graduating in our final year from medical school MBBS exam. We're going to write our medicine and surgery final, where you can now be granted your certificate to now practice as a medical doctor. There's this guy who feels that he knows too much and have a superiority complex over us, and he thinks that everything he knows, and he doesn't want to come for discussion. Up to the point that when we are discussing everybody that we are going for exam, he will avoid our discussion because he feels that he knows everything. He feels superior over everybody. So it was time for us to go for oral exam, which we call viva exam, where you meet the panel of professors, and then they have to ask you questions, and you do oral exam, and from there they can now pass you to go and practice. Guess what happened? When this guy went for his own, before he could sit down, the professors asked him a question, just simple question. What is liver cirrhosis? This is a simple medical terminology that this guy was used to before. But because of this overconfidence, because in superiority complex, you develop overconfidence on anything. And overconfidence can kill monkey. That was what happened to him. What is liver cirrhosis? Simple question. Guess what the guy did? Before he could say that, he said, yes, I know it. It is liver cirrhosis. Liver cirrhosis. I know it now. Yeah, they say, okay, tell us now. Tell us what is liver cirrhosis. Young doctor. He said, liver cirrhosis. I know it. Is it not liver cirrhosis? Liver cirrhosis. Liver cirrhosis. Okay. Okay, liver cirrhosis is for 5 minutes. They say, young doctor. They were confused. The examiners were confused. They were looking up for, young doctor, speak to us. This is your oral examination. He said, yes, I know. Is it not liver cirrhosis you people ask for? I know it. It is liver cirrhosis. Okay, liver cirrhosis is, he stood up. Liver cirrhosis is, I know it. I told you, I know it. What happened? 15 minutes, 20 minutes, he was still battling with liver cirrhosis. What happened? Overconfidence led him, and when it was the time for him to discharge and release the answer, NEPA took light, and he didn't know what to do. This thing I'm telling you, they call people, bonding him to psychiatric ward because he entered into psychotic manifestation. This guy was given another 1 year for more exposure. We graduated and left him behind. These are the consequences of complexes. If we allow it to stay in our marriage and our relationship, I'm telling you, that marriage will be fragmented. That relationship will no longer go. In fact, in our relationship with others and in the world, these complexes are one of the reasons why people are misbehaving, why people even kill. So we need to deal with these complexes so that we can make our relationship in the world to work. I'd like you to follow me gently, because these issues are issues that relate to our relationship, and this is what makes the world a better place. Without good relationship with each other, the world will not be a better place. Stay tuned for the next edition. Listen to me carefully, and I know you will not regret being on this channel. Please help me share to others. Make comments. We like to hear your comments on this channel because it's very important to us, and we are going somewhere. We are gradually going somewhere. Please stay tuned for the next episode. God bless you. Thank you.